In this video I want to show you how you can best move your objects around a maze that stops that problem of keeping on hitting the walls and not being able to navigate your way actually through the maze. I'll show you what I mean by that just by starting this simple game here. You'll see on my Pac-Man that I've got, if he hits the wall, we'll just stop him moving. So there's a stop there, there's no speed, and other than that we've got a no key, so if I stop pressing anything or when nothing is pressed we stop moving there, and then on the left arrow we'll start moving in a direction to the left at a speed of 4 and change the sprite to the left sprite. So this builds on an earlier skill that you've done, probably skill 2 or 3 you could use as you move forward with this. The other thing I've done is I have created a wall object which is solid, no events on the wall. The events for the wall collision are on the Pac-Man himself. So in my room I've just drawn some walls and I've got my Pac-Man there, and I just want to show you the difficulty you can have actually navigating up into this this corridor here, or perhaps even this one here. So let's just start this. And you'll see that the Pac-Man can be moved backwards and forwards with the arrow keys, but then to try and line him up with the space that you're trying to get him through is quite difficult. In fact, I'm not managing it now. There we've got it. And the reason for this is because the Pac-Man doesn't stop in line with the grid itself. So I'll show you what I mean by that. If we look here, you've got a grid, and this is a 32 by 32 grid, and our sprites, if we just look at one of these, you'll see that our sprites are also 32 by 32. So what we want to do when we move our objects around the room is we want to make sure that each time they move they align exactly to one of the grid squares. Alright, now to do that we're going to need to go into our Pac-Man object, and let's take the left arrow for starters. What we want to do is only move our object when he's actually aligned with the grid, or only stop him when he's aligned with the grid. And in the control tab we've actually got a question here which says check the grid. Okay, so if we take that and move it up and move it into our actions, we want to snap to the horizontal of 32 32 because we've got a 32 by 32 grid here. 32 by 32. Okay, applies to self. Okay, now we need to check that first. So what we're doing is we're saying I want to go left. Okay, you can go left, but only if you're aligned with the grid. Now that might not make sense, but let me copy this action and put it onto the no key action as well. Paste. So we'll only stop the instance. We'll only stop the object if he's aligned with the grid. Now already now you'll see how this changes the way the movement goes. So I'll play this. Remember, I'm using the left key for my movement here. If I move to the left, you'll see that the Pac-Man moves 32 pixels and stops. So he's not stopping until he aligns with the grid, and when he moves left, he'll move left 32 pixels. If we're going back the other way, again, the stopping, he's only stopping when he's aligned with the grid. We only want him to move when he's aligned with the grid, and now he's not aligned with the grid. We're going to get into trouble. So I'll need to stop that, and we'll need to copy this instance. Is if the instance is aligned with the grid, we can then start our movement, or actually in fact start stopping. So let's just copy that. We've already have it on the left key. We'll put it on the up arrow, so paste that in again. It must be at the top because we're going to start moving in a direction. Paste that there, paste that there. And what we then see, in fact we should have these in a block, shouldn't we? I'll leave that to do that later, but if we run the game now, you'll see no matter which way he moves, he stays in line with the grid, and that means that we're very easily able, just with a key press, to move him from square to square, and he stays in that grid alignment. This is almost an essential for when you're using a maze game, so that you keep your objects aligned with the grid, and it makes it so much easier to move around. One of the other things that you're going to need to realize though is that this is only going to work if you have a 32 by 32 sprite. So all of your sprites in a maze game should also be 32 wide and 32 high. Otherwise it won't work. Even though we've designed it to snap to the grid, it won't snap to the grid if the dimensions of the sprites are not 32 by 32. If you do happen to have a sprite that's not 32 by 32, you'll need to edit it to make it 32 by 32. So you can transform, you can stretch, and you can set the number of pixels to 32, 32. If you've got something that's rectangular, you'll need to turn off the keep aspect ratio and put these values to 32, 32. Or alternatively, if changing the size of the image doesn't work as well as you like, it stretches it or whatever, I don't need to change because I haven't made any change. We can actually modify the mask here and set the bounding box manually to 31, 31, and that will also fix the problem of keeping the object aligned to the grid when you're playing the game. So that's very quickly just how you need to work your objects when you're moving in a grid. Just keep them aligned 32 by 32 and you'll have no trouble navigating around your maze.